Good morning, Charis Bible College. We also want to welcome those that are viewing us on online, and welcome. And today we do have a very special treat. Again, we have Dr. Dennis and his wife Ginger Lindsay is here today. Give them a hand. Dr. Dennis Lindsay is the son of Gordon Lindsay and Frida Lindsay, and he is the president of Christ for the Nations. And so today he's coming in to continue to teach on creation and evolutionism and the fallacies of evolutionism. So have you been enjoying what he's had so far? Praise God. All right, so give a warm welcome again to Dr. Dennis Lindsay.
Testing, am I on? Okay. Well, good morning again. Oh my goodness. What a blessing you guys have up here in the mountains worshiping the Lord at this Bible school with the Walmarts. Oh my goodness, my goodness, my goodness. Y'all are blessed. Don't forget this incredible divine appointment that the Lord's given you. Okay. Someone just mentioned, do I have any books on that? Yeah, I do have books. I didn't bring any though. I've written about 25 books, each one on a different subject of biblical view of creation, dinosaurs. And I've written them in a very simple format that doesn't go whew when you're reading it. That if a house mom has no background in science and wants to teach her children, she can understand it and teach it very simply. It's written very easily to understand. And even college students can use it because I give facts and figures, but I keep it very simple. So if you go on the website of Christ for the Nations, there's a publishing company that's now I've signed with and they want to do it. I don't know much detail. I'm not into marketing, so you'll just have to look on there and find it. Amazon, I've seen it on my books on that. But anyway, this is fun, This is fun. Yesterday, someone was mentioned. Toby stood up and says, can you prove God? I asked the question, can you prove God scientifically in the laboratory? And he said, yeah. Well, yes, in a sense you can, because there's two types of science. There's observational science, which you can repeat something over and over again, like can you what's the boiling point of water? Something you can read. But then there's historical science that we use every day within the law and in the criminal cases. You have witnesses, but you can't repeat those things that you're trying to prove. Like if I said, John F. Kennedy, was he assassinated? Yes, you can prove that. You can have witnesses. I was right there on that day. I saw a lot of it. But you can't repeat something. That's historical science. There's a difference. You can't prove that in a laboratory. You can have witnesses, you can have a gun, you can have different things that will testify. But that's the difference between historical science and observational science. And Toby, when he raised a hand, you can prove certain things. And that's what I'm going to deal with today. But I wanted to finish up yesterday with what happened when I was sharing about how I was kicked out of the jury. I'll tell her that. Let me go ahead and finish my little conclusion of yesterday's 4 fallacies, okay? We'll run through that real quick. Okay, are we on? Great. Fallacy 1, we looked at that one, the origins of creation, looking at it from a biblical worldview and an evolutionary worldview. And of course, in the beginning, God, biblical, and in the beginning, nothing is the difference. Fallacy 2, the origins of life. In the beginning, inanimate material suddenly exploded, and little by little, it became animate. It became living cells and evolved into us. The biblical worldview, and God breathed into the dust of the earth, and man became a living man, living person, okay? And fallacy 3, the logic fallacy. How do you get logic? In the beginning was the Word. In the beginning was the Logos. And the Logos was with God, and the Logos was God. Logos, logic. That's where we get the word logic. We have a good reason, but the evolutionary worldview, somehow inanimate became animate, and it just became logical over a period of time. The 4th fallacy was morality. How do you get moral? How do you know absolutes? Okay, now the question that I asked, why would an education professor who has doctoral names behind his name and he chooses to believe there was no God, the Bible is nothing more than a fantasy. What's his underlying motive for determining that? And I was going to tell you, we'll see, and I'm at the conclusion now. So the question is, why would an educated professor, what is the underlying motive? And here's the answer. Very simple. Why would he choose to believe the impossible? Number one, coming up just quickly, that is the evolutionary worldview. That's the humanistic evolutionary view. The result of blind chance, it's not science, that's magic. And the difference is Christianity. In the beginning, there was an ultimate being which created everything. In atheism, in the beginning, there was nothing which exploded. That's the difference. So, why do intelligent men and women believe the myth of creation? The answer, and remember, I said I'm going to tell you. Now is the time. Okay, here's the 5 logical reasons why atheists deny the existence of God. Very simple. It's not based on the evidences. Rather, it's based on, number one, it appeals to the flesh. Number two, it offers a very comfortable lifestyle. Number 3, no morality, no accountability when it comes to morals. No morality coming from above. You got to do this or else. Number 4, it provides one with the freedom to select the rules that you want to live by. And you can borrow rules from the Bible if you want to. The ones you like. For example, the 10 Commandments. You don't like that one? You don't like that one? You just, oh, I like that one. Okay, honoring your parents, I like that one. Thou shalt not kill. Okay, I like that one. No, I don't like that one. Steal? Yeah, I don't want anybody to steal from me, so okay, I won't steal unless I really have to. Thou shalt not bear false witness. Don't lie. No, I mean, there are times I got to lie. And here's the last one. There's no threat of eternal punishment. That's it in a nutshell. Bottom line, no Bible. No God, no Bible. No Bible, no absolutes. No absolutes, no authority. No authority, no threat of eternal hell. I'm free to do as I please. I can conveniently push God out of the picture of my life. It's okay for you. I get to be the hero of the plot of my life. And I get to be the director and the producer. I get to be the star of the movie. I want to be king of the playground. And you're not going to stop me. And not just for a day, but for the entire life, forever. I love myself. I like this little quote by Ray Comfort. He says, atheists don't hate fairies and leprechauns or unicorns because they don't exist. It's impossible to hate something that doesn't exist. But why do they hate God? Why do they hate the Bible? 2 worldviews, remember that? And these 2 guys? One emphasizes his worldview is God, Bible. The other one, no. And here's today, this gentleman on the left, he's a very dedicated man of God, loves the Lord, loves the Bible. Ken Ham, one of the most sought after speakers on creation in the world. And then the person on the right, Bill Nye, the science guy. But again, the battle is over the same evidence. And one of them says, it's all about me, even though he's very kind and gracious when he speaks. And the other has his worldview from the Bible. So you have 2 faiths. Which faith appeals to the flesh? Which faith frees one from any moral responsibility? 2 faiths. Which faith frees one from any threat of eternal punishment? Which faith allows one to be God? Which faith is more rational and appeals more to the reason and logic? Well, the biblical view, as we'll see. 2 faiths, the issue is a heart issue. You see that? That is what I'm focusing in right now. It's a heart issue, folks. Evolution is a morally comfortable religion. I get to be king of the universe. It's a faith issue, yeah, it's a faith. Because it's impossible to please God without faith. So the problem then, selfishness. We've got a problem, all of us. Every one of us born got a little problem of an ego. And even from when we're little children. That little problem, that sin nature, begins to show itself. I don't know who she's looking at, but she's saying, don't touch. It doesn't stop, folks. The center of the problem is what? Me, I, pride. So what I'm saying to you, it's a heart issue. The heart of the matter, the battle, is not over the evidences. We all have the same evidences. We have the same facts. The battle is over what? One's worldview. One's worldview determines the way you're going to interpret the evidence. Remember this, the little story about the 12 spies that Moses sent into the promised land and said, give us a report. And they come back with these giant grapes, and boy, the stories are pretty amazing, right? Wow, we saw these giants. Man, they were big. We were like little grasshoppers to them. And the difference between seeing and believing. 10 came back saying the wrong thing. 2 came back saying the right thing. All had seen exactly the same thing. Their report then was based not on what they had seen, but rather on what they had believed before they left the camp. The fool has said in his heart, there's no God. The final word, guess what? Remember, I started out by saying, one of my graduates at Christ for the Nations went to the University of Texas, and in the science class, he had to do a project, and he asked if he could give his science project on interviewing a creationist to respond to what he said. You know, it's not good to teach little children. It's not good because it messes up their ability to begin to grow and think logically and rationally. So don't do that. It's not good. Final word, guess what? Mr. Atheist Professor would not show the video. 4 fallacies, it was banned. Why do people reject God? Since what has been known about God is plain to them, because God has made it plain to them. Verse 20, for since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power, his divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that men are without excuse. Goes on to say in John, this is the verdict. Light has come into the world, but men love darkness instead of the light because their deeds were evil. Everyone who does evil hates the light, hates the truth, and will not come into the light because they don't want their sins to be exposed. So therefore, those will be condemned who has not believed the truth, but have delighted in wickedness. That's the little story. Now, I'll give you a quick little tour. I had to go to jury duty. I didn't want to go because they said that I had to go. I says, I'm teaching a class at that very hour. If you don't come, you're in contempt of court, Mr. Lindsay, and you will be possibly subject to a fine, even put in jail. So I went there, and I'm sitting in a holding tank about as big as this. I mean, there were 500 people waiting to be selected into groups of about 50 to go to different rooms. And eventually we got to the room, and we're sitting there in all of our assigned little places, and they're going to pick 12 people. And the judge comes up and says, now this is very important. This person is on trial for drugs, and he can be up for 99 years. So it's a serious case. So then he turns it over to the defending attorney, and the defending attorney gives his pedigree. He begins to share about where he graduated, how long he has been a believer at this church, how long he's been married, what university he graduated, how long he's been in the business of a lawyer. He talked about his 3 children, where they graduated, how long they've been married, each of them, and what church they went to, what university they went to, and what they're all doing. It was a pity. So if you can believe me, what I'm going to say about my person I'm defending, you can believe me, it's going to be true. Then they turn it over to the prosecuting attorney representing the state of Texas, and he says, I have enough evidence against this individual to sink a battleship. Now, he didn't say it quite in those words. But that's what he said. We have so much evidence against this. So if you're selected to be on the jury, know this. The evidence that I present to you is going to determine the verdict. Does anybody have a problem or a question? I raised my hand. The judge looked at me. Mr. Lindsay, because he knew where everybody's sitting, what's your problem? I said, he just said that the evidence is going to determine the verdict. I said, no, sir, it's not going to be the evidence. They both have the exact same evidence. It's going to be their worldview, and that's going to be the way they interpret the evidence. So if they have an absolute standard to determine it, it's going to be different from somebody that does not have an absolute standard. Thank you, Mr. Lindsay. I was in a preaching mode, and guess what? You're allowed to leave. Not invited. Was not part of that. And it was in the county of Dallas, Texas. Big deal. That was amazing. And just a little humor from God. God, is God humorous? He made us in his image. I go out, and I'm trying to get back to the school, get back to the deal. And I go out. It's a 7-story garage. And I went up and I went to the top. And I had borrowed my wife's car because mine was being worked on. And I couldn't find her car. And I had the beeper, and I was looking for all the lights to come on. Nothing. Finally, I called her. I said, give me the license number. And she had to look it up because her car was a rent car. Hers was being worked on as well. And so she gave me and I went up and down 2 or 3 floors. The whole thing was full of cars and nobody. I met either 3 or 4 people that were looking for their cars as well. And we could not find it. And I finally gave up. And I said, I was up there for almost 20 to 30 minutes looking for a car, walking back. And finally I go over to the side. Lord, help me find that car. And I look down, 7 floors down, and there's the boulevard right down there that I drove up on. And I look. There's the parking lot on the other side of the boulevard. Wrong worldview. The Lord, I'm sure, was smiling, says to the angels, watch this. Okay. All right, let's do the next one. How much time do we have left on this one? We'll continue on if we don't finish in the first hour. Okay, we got 30 minutes plus. Building faith. And we're going to be talking about intelligent design. According to the evolutionary theory, there really is no such thing as intelligent design. It appears to be, it looks like intelligence, it looks like design, but it's really not. Intelligent design, or evolving through chance over several hundred years, or millions of years, or billions of years. And that just evolves into something amazing. And in time, that evolves into something more amazing, digital. And in time, more amazing. And we would laugh to say, that just happened by blind chance, wouldn't we? So let me show you something. Why stop asking stupid questions? When you all know, why would you ask? Okay. Now remember, I hammer this into the students. I'm known as the heart issue professor at Christ for the Nations because I hammer that. It's not the evidence. It's a heart issue. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about faith and about God's creation. Matthew 17:20. Truly I tell you, if you have a small faith that's just as small as a mustard seed, that we've heard this, you can move mountains. Okay? There's a little mustard seed. And that little thing can produce this scrubby-looking tree, a mustard tree. They kind of look like this in Texas. I don't know what they look like up here. You know what that is, okay? Redwood tree. Very small, isn't it? Can you believe that? A redwood seed? So the redwood tree seeds, very tiny, but it begins very tiny, right? Isn't that amazing? It knows its identity. Can you believe that? A little tiny seed. If you have faith, in God, oh, it's amazing what He can do in your life and what you can become if you will trust Him, even though the devil's out to destroy your faith. And he's going to cause all sorts of challenges in your life to come your way. So the question is, how is your faith? Well, the question is, how big is your God? And remember I asked you, what's the first test of Scripture? Is there really a God that created everything absolutely out of nothing instantly? Or in 6 days or whatever? The first test of Scripture is Genesis 1:1. It's a test of fidelity. It's a test of trust. Just like a little child. Dad says, come on, jump, jump, I'll catch you, I'll catch you. Well, the child may be scared, but if he takes that first step, pretty soon he realizes his dad's going to catch him every time he says, trust me, I'm going to catch you. Now is the time to build, and we're going to look at faith, building your faith. Keep calm and know God's going to provide understanding when you don't know what's going on. And He tells us, since the beginning of creation, the world, and we've already looked at that, origins, He has made everything. So everyone is without excuse. If we look around, and I'm going to show you some things, and we've already know this, but I'm going to give you some things probably you've never seen before. God's given us all an identity. Isn't that unique? And we're understanding it more because of technology today, who we are, that God's created us in such a way that nobody past, present, or future can perform the exact thing that God wants us to perform and why He created us. So call unto me and I'll answer, and I'll show you great and mighty things which you do not know. God will always give reasons to believe. So let's go ahead and walk up a little bit and increase your faith in trusting the Lord that He is the Creator and not this diabolical thing that says there's no Creator. So let's take you to the next step, the origins controversy, creation or chance. Any questions? Big question, why? Why is the U.S. spending so much money, billions of dollars? I'll show you in just a second. On space exploration. Why? Billions and billions of dollars, and we still remember the sad things that's already happened here in the United States. 1986, the explosion, and all these were killed instantly. And then a little bit later, 2003, Columbia disaster. NASA keeps spending hundreds of billions of dollars. Moving on to super colliders now. These are amazing things. Why are we spending so much money on those? It's not that it's wrong, but I'm just trying to show you what is the reason that's going on in the minds of educated men who don't believe there is a God. Yeah, there's many Christians that are scientists as well, and that's good, but there's a lot of people that are promoting these things that are definitely costing hundreds of billions of dollars. This one, they were going to do one just right next to our school in South Dallas. And they were building the tunnel, and then they collapsed the whole thing, and the government says, no, we're not going to. They didn't like Texas. Texas was pretty outstanding when they, it's like part of the Bible Belt, right? There's, like I say, there's nothing to worship there except God. You guys up here, you got a lot of work, a lot of people worship these trees and animals and things like that. Atom smashers, the cost, oh my goodness. And then you look at our national debt, and 2014, and then 2015, and it just keeps going up and up. And look at this. The national budget in 2013, $3.8 trillion, okay? The taxes collected here in the United States was only 2.5. That means we had a deficit of 1.3 billion, trillion, not billion, $trillion that year in 2013. And we hear about it every year. Something has happened, trillion. And how long would it take? This is something I'm not going to take time to do it. How long would it take to spend $1 trillion? Well, 1 billion. Look at that, 1 billion. What about $1 trillion? Oh my goodness, trying to spend that. Burning $1 billion a day since the birth of Christ. How long would it take to burn $1 trillion? Can you imagine how long it would take to build $1 trillion? The question is, burning $1 million a day since the birth of Christ, how long would it take to burn 1 trillion to the year 2737? The U.S. total national debt now stands at, well, this is an old one figure. Nevertheless, space exploration keeps continuing. Why? What's going on? You know what the answer is? It's like it's going down a what? A black hole. Since public schools authorities have trashed the Bible, so the answer is man is searching for the Savior of the world. Super duper man. At any time, if anyone says to you, look, here is the Christ, here's Superman, or look, there he is, don't believe it. For false supermans and false prophets will appear and perform signs and wonders and deceive you. So be on your guard. I have told you everything ahead of time. So there's going to be some false Christs that come along that are going to appear to be a Superman. Look at this, astronomer and scientist. Very soon the nations will look to aliens for their salvation. That's where we're headed to, folks. That's what's going on in all of the space exploration. It's all about search for extraterrestrial life. It will tell us where we came from, what we're doing here, who we are, how we got here, why, all these questions. When the universe was new, a long time ago, they're going to tell us. In the beginning, what? How did we originate? Was it God or was it goo? And we've all heard that. The things we will learn, this primordial soup. They say that we evolved out of a cloud of hot gases, and we would say, can you prove that? They've been trying to prove that. Remember old Barney? He just graduated to his eternal home. Now we got this guy, Bill Nye, the science guy. Did we actually descend from apes and aliens? That's been the question, the origins issue. Who created? What was created? How is it created? When was it created? How long did it take to create? Why is this so important? Because these 5 fundamental elements make up one's worldview. This is what makes up each one of our worldviews, our origins. Where did we come from? Our identity, purpose, responsibilities, and destiny. Remember, what you believe about your origins will determine your view about the last 4 items. Remember that? So the last 4, what you believe about your origins. So if the Satan can get you to disbelieve in God as the creator God, that you came from him, then you're not going to understand these other 4 issues. Indoctrination at secular universities. Listen to this, what he says. Cornell University. Let me summarize my views on what modern evolutionary biology tells us loud and clear. There are no gods, no purposes, no goal-directed forces of any kind. Discover magazine, supposedly a science magazine, said this: the universe burst into something from absolutely nothing, zero, nada. And as it got bigger, it became filled with even more stuff that came from absolutely nowhere. That's in Discover, a Science magazine. I like this guy. Kent Hovind, Eric's his son. Let's just see this just a second. This is good. It's only a minute long or whatever. Oh, I don't have sound, do I? Never mind. We won't say it. Yeah, never mind. Sorry. I forgot to tell him I have a few things with science. So what is this? Science or nonsense? It's an animated little thing of how we got everything out of absolutely nothing from an explosion. Anyway. Nonsense, Dr. Joseph Silk. It is only fair to say that we have a theory. The Big Bang Theory. We have a theory without a beginning. Interesting. Astronomers have not the slightest evidence for the supposed quantum production, whatever that is, of the universe out of the primordial nothingness, whatever that means. Let us now consider the anthropic principle. It appears to be made by a creator, a designer, who made the earth just right for life. Was it a divine being, or did it come about through blind chance? The anthropic universe is dramatically fine-tuned so that life can exist. We've heard that. But I'm going to show you some examples of this intelligent design. God does not play dice with the universe. We've heard that quote. That means there are hundreds of precise parts of creation that if any one were altered in the slightest, it would render life impossible to exist. Hundreds, essential parts for life to possibly exist. Dr. Paul Davies, it seems as though somebody has fine-tuned nature's number to make the universe. See, a few years ago, this intelligent design movement started by people saying, evolution just can't work. That the design is too unbelievable to suggest that it all came about through blind chance. But they have taken us up one step, but they are not. Many of the scientists believe that, yes, there's some intelligent designer out there, but it's not the guide of the Bible. So at least they've said there's something there. That's why they're looking for intelligent design out there in this space. E.T., extraterrestrial beings. Helps us to understand. He goes on to say, the impression of design is overwhelming. It's like somebody has fine-tuned nature. And you see the puzzle? That's the universe. Something has happened to bring all of these things together so that life can exist. It's a giant jigsaw puzzle. Each part of the universe is independent and interdependent and interlinked in order for the entire universe to operate systematically. So the anthropic principle, there are over 400 major essential parts for life to exist on planet Earth. Let's look at a number of essential parts, the 400 in order for life to exist. Now, this is a little thing that I share with my students. And I asked one of the students to come up, and I challenged me. I have $20 I'm going to give you. I say that I have these 10 coins in my pocket, and I can put these 10 coins in there, and I let you come up and look at them, and they all have a different date, starting from like 2000 and going up to 2009. How many of you believe that I can put those 10 pennies and pull them out in order? Only 10. In order, beginning with the year 2000, and then putting it back in, pulling it back out, 2001. Do I have any nuts that will challenge me? I say I can do it. And you say, I can't, come on up and challenge me. I'm going to pull out my $20, and if I can, you lose your $20. And immediately I always have a student come up here. And I know, and I'm going to show you how evolution doesn't work. So he gives me the coins back, I stick them in my pocket, and I reach my hand in there, and I pull them out. And I say, now what is it? And he's got a magnifying glass. 2,000? Oh, how did that? I say, look, I had one chance out of 10 to do that. You always have that chance. That happens. Stick it. Now, if I do it again, you know something's a little, everybody's laughing. And I pull out the second one and I hand it to him. What is it? He looks at it. 2001. How did you do that? Give it back. Stick it back in. Pull out the next one. 2003. They can't believe it. At the beginning, everybody is laughing. And I say, now, by the fourth coin, not everybody's laughing. They're kind of a little snickering. What's going on here? And are you cheating? I said, no, I pull out, here's all the coins right here again. I put them back in my pocket. The next one I pull out, 2004, 2000. I said, what's going on here? And then I show them, I pull out, I have a second set of coins on a piece of tape, and I'm just pulling them off, one at another. But cheating is by design. It's not by chance. But you were laughing at 10 coins. You know I can't pull out 10 coins in order, all put together just perfectly. You know I'm cheating, but cheating is by design. And I do that every year with the students that aren't aware of that. And then I say, what is the chance I can pull those out in order? You know what the chance is? Just 10 coins? It's unbelievable. So if I pull all of those 10 coins out, blindfolded, without looking, what are the chances? It's not 1 in 1,000. It's not 1 in 10,000 or 100,000 or a million or billion. It's 1 in 10 billion chances I can get all 10 coins out in order. 1 in 10 billion chances. That really doesn't compute, right? We see this. We know that didn't happen by chance, by the river just flowing down. Are there some examples in nature that would suggest design couldn't have happened by blind chance? I'm going to show you some. Consider this. The first one is little gecko and the mosquito. First up, we'll look at the mosquito. This little pesky little critter. Do you have any of these things up here? That's ashamed. These little guys up close look like something from outer space. No, they're pests. They're a blood-sucking pest. They have a built-in drill. Amazing what Mother Nature can design. A drill bit with a hypodermic needle. This little fella, it's amazing. Up close. Look at this little up close. Little pesky fella. Blood-sucking hypodermic needle. Hey, a little double your pleasure. Why did God create them? They have a testimony. They confirm intelligent design. Mosquitoes don't see very well, but they can zoom in like a heat-seeking missile. You know what a heat-seeking missile is that they fire? It shoots down your enemy. In the spherical arrangement of their compound eyes, a mosquito can detect a moving target. Look at those eyes. Can you believe that? Happened by blind chance. It finds a host by detecting infrared radiation emitted by warm bodies and by the chemical signals such as carbon dioxide. So it zeroes in. That's what it sees. 30 to 160 feet, the mosquito detects carbon dioxide from the humans. 15 to 30 feet, he first sees the humans. 7 inches, the mosquito detects human moisture. And he goes to work. Drilling. Watch his little rear. There goes the little thing. Man. Drill. Till he hits a little vein and starts sucking. Can you believe that? Fill her up, please. Now in color. Isn't that amazing? Yum, yum, strawberry. Did that happen by blind chance? And now let's talk about its wings a little bit. How many beats for this little fella here? You have hummingbirds up here, right? With a hummingbird's wings, anybody tell me what it is to see if I got my figures right. Wings per second per minute. 60 to 80 beats per second. Up to 200 times in a dive, they say. What about a mosquito? Its wings. You know when it goes, what are those wings beating? You can go on the web and look at it. How many times per minute? And there's a little bit of debate, 100 or so, that everybody's not in full agreement yet. But guess, here it is. Would you believe 1,000 times per second? 1,000 times per second, this little tiny pesky little can beat its wings? How many times can a drummer beat his, if he's wild, beats per second? They say 5 beats per second. There's a guy going out of up to 300 beats per minute. And this little pesky squid. Did that happen by blind chance? What do you think? Or intelligent design? Did this happen by blind chance or intelligent design? Isn't that amazing? Blind watchmaker. There's a book out called The Blind Watchmaker. He's saying that no, there's no such thing as intelligent design. Okay, let's look at this little gecko. Ceiling walker. 15 minutes a day could save your life. That is if you're reading the Bible, okay? All right. Now, what's amazing about this thing is, see those windows right over there? He can walk right up those windows. How does he do that? You know about this guy. How does the gecko walk upside down on a ceiling without falling off? Right side up, sideways, up or down, upside down, on glass, doesn't matter. It's unbelievable. How does he do that? Is it oil in his little feet? They've studied it. Does he have little suction cups? You know, kind of like those. Is that what he's got? Electron microscope with a magnification of 35,000 reveals the toe pads have millions of little fiber-like tufts, like the tiny bristles on a toothbrush with little suction cups, but they don't really suck. Like, you know, like on a octopi or octopus. Each suction cup is about 8/millionth of an inch in diameter. It is estimated the gecko has at least 500 million little suction cups on his toes. Isn't that amazing? That's the little feet. And it has little curlicues so that they won't get stuck if he's walking when you have all that. It is designed so that the tips of the toes curl upward so that he can peel off the suction cups gradually with each step and not get himself totally stuck to the surface, because he can run right up and down. Kind of like, you know, those kind of adhesive things that you can use. But he has something else. This is what's really amazing. The suction cups use atomic molecular attraction. When I read that, I says, I don't believe that. I looked on a number of different websites. Yep. Which means there are magnetic attraction between the atoms in its feet and the atoms in the ceiling. Every atom in your body has a plus and a minus. Every atom in the entire universe has a plus and a minus. And when you put two pluses together or two minuses together, what happens? They're attracted or they repel each other, depending. And so apparently God has created this little creature somehow that those little tiny atoms are attracted to the atoms as it's running up and down. I just couldn't believe that. I had to read it over and over and over, kind of like attraction. But this is the way it works. Plus and plus, minus and minus. Atoms have both positive and negative electrons. The gecko uses the electrons in the cells of his feet to attract the electrons on the surface that he walks on. Kind of like a magnet. Unbelievable, these little tufts in its feet. That is something else. Gecko foot. And what's really interesting to me is man has tried to make a little gecko. Look at this thing. It's complicated and it's gigantic. It sort of works, I guess, some of the times. Look at that. And you think that happened by blind chance? Not a chance. Does this look like it happened by blind chance? God's symphony, getting ready for the show to about to begin. Oh, I got to show you this, the first moment. Let me just show you just a brief little excerpt. I got this off of the web. Let's see if I can pull it up. Tens of thousands of birds flying together, never touching each other. It's like a rhapsody. It's unbelievable when you see these things flying through the space. How do they do that without bumping into each other? And they're just millimeters, just a few millimeters apart from each other. Look at this. That's something else. Okay, I could go on and on. That's enough to show you. And then they even have this in the ocean as well. They can do this. Amazing. God loves us. Satan hates us. Why does Satan want us all dead in this room? Because we are a threat to his kingdom. When you're a threat, you're always a target. One more amazing little creature. Let's talk about him in the deep. Pistol shrimp. You ever heard of a pistol shrimp? You've seen a stun gun, or you've heard about the stun guns, right? This little guy down here on the left, next to this yellow fish, When he has a little enemy come out there, he can pull out his little pistol, shoot him, and it stuns the guy, leaves him alone. Or if he wants him for food, if it's small enough, stun it and go over there and gobble it down. That's him right there. Kind of interesting. There he is down by right there. Small little guy. So he has a stun gun, shoots a bubble at 100 kilometers or 60 miles an hour. That little bubble. He shoots a bubble out of his claw at 60 miles an hour. There it is, actually shows it. Creates a cavity, a bubble, by snapping the claw shut, and when it causes a little burst of light. And there's the little burst of light that happens. And what's interesting, it gives off heat. That little burst of light gives off heat. So it creates an explosion. Guess how loud the explosion is when it shoots it out? A passenger car driving by at 25 feet is about 60 decibels. A jackhammer, 100 decibels. A chainsaw nearby, 120 decibels. A jet engine at 100 feet, 140 decibels. A 12-gauge shotgun blast, 165 decibels. The loudest sound possible that humans have done, 194 decibels. So what is the decibels? And again, you have to look on the web, because the scientists say they have the electronics to be able to tell exactly how loud this thing is. It's very small and short. You have to believe this. 150 decibels, eardrum is ruptured. It only achieved if you stand really close to a jet aircraft during takeoff or you're near an explosive blast. Would you believe this little creature, 218 decibels? You see that? 150? This little guy, 218 decibels. It's louder than a jet engine. Guess how hot the explosion is? They've measured the actual heat from the explosion. Would you believe it's hotter than the surface of the sun, which is 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit? This little guy, God has created it. It's like dynamite fishing, which is illegal. Can you believe that? That this little creature has that pistol shrimp. Go and you can look it up on the web and study it for yourself. Did it come about by blind chance? Or was there a God, an amazing creator involved? It involves trillions. In other words, we're talking about a God that's created trillions and trillions of coins, a balancing act of nature that created this. It had to have a designer. Birds, gecko, mosquito, pistol shrimp. Did it all happen by blind chance? There's even more. What are the chances for Mother Nature to come up with heads on 15 examples of life on planet Earth? And that's what we're going to cover in the next session, all right? 15 examples that shows there's a God that created life. All right. All right. Turn this thing on.
All right, good morning again. And welcome those that are new, that are coming online, and this is the first time that you've been on. Today we are enjoying the teaching of Dr. Dennis Lindsay. He is the president of Christ for the Nations Institute, and so have you been blessed so far? All right, so Doctor, will you come up and continue?
Okay, something I forgot to mention to you. My last two books that I just printed are part 1 and part 2 of Intelligent Design. It has a lot of these things in it, even a lot more. So if you look on the web, both of them, I don't remember what volumes they are. And the one that's become the biggest one that I've sent, I can't believe what happened on this book. Students were asking, how do giants fit in the Bible? And so I decided to do a study of that one. And the first thing I begin to do is study these megalithic structures around the world that you can go on the internet and see them, or you can fly and visit them. So you can't Photoshop them. You can do Photoshop them, but if you fly to the place, you can actually see these megalithic structures. They're unbelievable. And now that the world is opened up for man and travel and technology, you can go and visit, and they are finding new places all around the world that are unbelievable. Now, the whole idea was just talking about giants, but I began to study through the Bible, and I could not believe how many times giants are mentioned in the Bible. Well, I kind of wrote this book on the basic passage. Jesus says, as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be just before I return. Well, what was it like in the days of Noah? Well, there's not much that shares, but back in Genesis chapter 6, verse 1 through 4, it talks about the sons of God sees daughters, human beings that are attractive and has sex or has hybrids, Nephilim. And of course, that's been a debate among the church and the theologians, what that is. Angelic beings with human beings. How can that possibly be, have an offspring? A hybrid. Now I begin to study even more and see what the hybrids that the ancients said are mythological, that at least that's what we're saying today. Man, maybe there's some truth, because giants are not just a few times with Goliath in the Bible, but they're all through the Old Testament. I couldn't believe it. And Jesus says as it was back then, just before the flood, and it was so bad that God had to wipe out the entire world, and he says he's going to have to do it again. And now technology today is doing something that you can't believe. And the last third of the book is about what's going on in the world right now, making hybrids, half humans. All the movies today are about hybrids, aliens, and people, mechanical type of creatures, and biological type of creatures. Mixing the DNA. We have unraveled the DNA of the human being and of animals, and we're splicing genes, and they're saying, if we can take the genes out of this animal, we can put those genes in you, and you'll be able to see better, hear better, live longer, be stronger, run faster, all of these things. So that's what is happening today. And in the West, in America, we still have certain laws. You can't do certain things, but over in the East, they don't have those laws. So the first third of the book is about these gigantic places that talks about they had to be built by giants or supernatural demonic manifestations. They're all over the world. And I was in Israel, and I had a picture of something, and I showed it to my sister who's lived there now 50 years, and I says, do you know about this place? Yeah, that's not in Israel. I said, yeah, it is. It's right up by the Sea of Galilee. No, it's not. I've lived here, brother, for 50 years. I know that. I said, go look on the web. She comes back the next day. What is this? She couldn't believe it. I asked our guide, and he never heard of it. And then I said, go look on the web. And he comes, I've never heard of this place. I asked another guide on that trip that was a friend of ours who fought in the Six-Day War up on the Golan Heights, and I said to him, you know about this place? Well, yeah. I said, can you take us there? Well, yeah. I said, but it's off limits. But I have a pass. I can take you there. He took our tour group there. We were the first tour group that's ever visited. It's right close to Syria, so we had to walk about a mile, mines on both sides. He said, be sure to stay with me on the path. Now they're making it into a national park. They say it is older than the pyramids in Egypt and the Stonehenge in England. It's 500 feet across in diameter. It's 40 to 50,000 boulders up to 20 tons apiece. The archaeologists of the Jewish archaeologists say it had to be built by giant beings. So anyway, my sister reads my manuscript of that book, Giants, Fallen Angels, and the Return of the Nephilim. My sister, whenever I talk with her, it's just like I said yesterday, Israel, 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 Israel. I give her the manuscript, and she knows all about my books. She translates them into Hebrew and for the Jewish people, but never has shown any personal real interest in creation. She reads my manuscript, and then she says, Dennis, I've got to edit your book. What's the matter? I've got to take out it's pretty amazing, Dennis, but I've got to take out all your Christian jargon so non-Christians and Jewish people will read it. We will save for the end of the book. They'll be caught in it, and they'll have to make a decision. And so she translated the whole thing. And then, if you've heard of Daystar, Joni gets a copy of it. She reads it all night and then calls me and says, come over and do a program, 30-minute program. So I did. Well, the program lasted 3 hours, nonstop deal. Jim Baker, you ever heard of him? He gets a copy. Says, come up and do a program. Nonstop 6 hours. Nonstop 6 hours of printing talking about this book. And it's called Giants, Fallen Angels, and the Return of the Nephilim. The first third are about the locations all around the world. The second third is about the demonic powers that Satan has, and watch what he's up to. And the last third is what's going on in the world today. Jesus says, as it was back then, just before our return, it's going to be doing the same thing again. Okay, that gives you a little idea if you want to look that up. Again, I'm not good at marketing, but that's a little bit about that. So what are the chances? Okay, we've talked about this. Oh, wait a second. Where are we? I've passed this, right? I'm sorry, I didn't. Oh, here we are. Oh, yeah, we were at the right place. Sorry. Okay, so we talked about this hat magic. Okay, what are the chances for Mother Nature to come up with heads on the following 15 coins in order to create life? Okay, 15 coins. Can you imagine that? I remember that. 1 in 10 billion chances for 10 coins to come out of my pocket. So now I'm talking about 15 different things in creation for life to exist on planet Earth that had to be there, okay? And we already talked about 10 coins, and what is 15 coins? 15, okay. Blindfolded, pulling those out, we know what 10 was. 1 in 10 billion chances for 10 coins. 15 coins, 1 in trillion. If you pull out all 15 coins out of my pocket in order, 1 in 50. So we're going to look at the 15 deals. There it is. It gives you a little life. 1 in quadrillion dollars. Can you imagine? It just doesn't compute in our brains, right? It's okay. Earth is just right for life to exist, precisely determined, and these are the ones. We're going to go through each of these, so I just won't even take time to read them. But we're going to look at this. Okay, coin 1. Each of the following coincidences are just right for life to exist on planet Earth. Coin 1. Location in our galaxy is precisely determined. What does that mean? Coin 1. Okay, there's our little Earth. There's our sun, kind of blown up a little bit. That's our Milky Way. And that means there's a certain little area that life can only exist according to the scientists, and that's right this green zone. If our little planet was outside, if our sun and our little solar system was outside, inside or outside, couldn't have life on planet Earth. What's the chance? And I'm going to show these kind of unique little creatures that God has created, just kind of blow your mind. I mean, what in the world was the Lord thinking of when he created that? Number 2, location in the solar system precisely determined. Do you know there's a green belt here as well? You know what I'm talking about, a green belt? That's the green belt where it's dry. We all know about Egypt. It has a green belt along the Nile River. And there it is in our little solar system. The only place, if our little planet Earth, was inside or outside that green belt, you could not have life on planet Earth. Just right. So you have it not only in our solar system, but also in our galaxy. There and there. Chance, just came out just right. Coin 3, distance from the sun, precisely determined. The distance from the sun, 93,000 miles or 149 Ks. 11,500 degrees Fahrenheit. Sunspots, they say, go up to 1 to 2 million degrees when they have a little explosion on the sun. The chance the temperature would change, 50 degrees. That's a half of 1%. If it changed 50 degrees, surface of the sun, you cannot have life on planet Earth. It would come to an end very, very quickly. How could the surface of the sun remain constant over the last 3 billion years, they tell us, since life suddenly came on planet Earth? So for the last 3 billion years, the temperature on the surface of the sun has not changed either more or less, 50 degrees. Further away, what would it mean? Life comes to an end. In other words, too close, it's going to burn up. Further away, it's going to be frozen. Blind chance? Okay. Number 4. Starting place for life, we know, is what? Water. For our earth to have water, just right. Did that happen by chance? They tell us it had to be just perfect. And you can't have life without water. And we are in the perfect place in our solar system to water to exist on planet. Coin 5, the size of the oceans are precisely determined. They tell us ocean surface, 70% of the earth. It acts as a thermostat, so it doesn't get too hot. You know, with Texas it gets hot, but it doesn't get too hot. It doesn't go up to 200 degrees or boiling point. Coin 6, speed of the earth around the sun, precisely determined, 67,000 miles per hour. 18 miles per second. Slow it down a few miles per second, and you know what that means? It's going to be too hot. Life is not going to be able to exist. Or if you speed it up, what's going to happen to our little planet going around the sun? Speed it up, life comes to an end. You know why? Because gravity will not hold it. It will zoom off into space. Did that happen by a mistake, or did that happen by design? It's number 7. Spin of the earth, 1,000 miles per hour at the equator. Mercury, 59 days it takes to make one revolution. Venus, 243 days to make a revolution. Jupiter and Saturn, 10 hours. Every 10 hours it makes a revolution. Think about that, the earth. 1,000 miles per hour, just right, at the equator. Spin of the earth took longer. The temperature differentiation would be what? Too great. It would get too hot. And if it's shorter time, you would have tremendous wind velocities, which means you would have storms that you can't imagine. Did that happen by blind chance, nature? Coin 8, the axis tilt, 23 degrees. And we know that's what causes summer and winter as we go around the sun. But look at all the different planets. Saturn, 27 degrees. Uranus, it's almost on its side. Neptune, 30 degrees. Pluto, 120 degrees. Mercury, almost straight up and down. Venus, 17 degrees. That's supposed to be 17, I think. Earth, 23, so on. Tilt of the essential maintaining temperature stability. That's what causes summer, winter, and so on. Did that happen by chance? Coin 9, the distance from moon, the size of the moon precisely determined. 240,000 miles, much smaller. If the moon were larger or closer to the earth, even to have an eclipse of the sun, the moon has to be perfectly in the place for that to work out. It is amazing what happened. I don't know if you heard about that. All the news was about, Jerusalem, and then we were partying and having all sorts of fun during the eclipse across the United States. Was it August? And then my sister tells me, did you know that the eclipse that took place here in the United States began over in the West Coast, in Portland area, and it crossed over the little city of Salem, Oregon. And at the very second that it became a full eclipse right there, the sun in Jerusalem was setting at that very, very second. Salem is the old word. Melchizedek, Salem, and that's the city that was eclipsed, and the sun set there in Jerusalem at the very second. But as it crossed over the United States, it crossed over 6 more Salems, right over the top. Salem, Idaho, Salem, what are they? Wyoming, Salem, I don't remember. Salem, Missouri, Salem, Tennessee. It was unbelievable. Right over the top, the swath. What is the Lord saying? Something unusual about that, but anyway. So you bring the earth and the moon a little bit closer together, you're going to have gigantic waves. Going to wipe out so much life. If the moon were much smaller or further away, you're going to have smaller tides, and as a result of smaller tides, you're going to have less tides, and then the tides will not clean the harbors around the world. They become polluted and dirty and filthy. Did all of that happen just right, the distance of the moon? Happenstance? Can you believe that the Lord would create certain things like that? And then you look over to your neighbor, would the Lord create? Why did he? My goodness. Coin 10, diameter of the earth, precisely determined. Now this is kind of interesting. 8,000 miles diameter. Add 1,000 miles, increase ocean level. I'm not quite sure how that works out, but the water increases by adding diameter to the planet Earth, so that much of the world would be flooded if it was larger. That's England. That's what they said would happen. Subtract 1,000 miles, gravity diminishes. In other words, the smaller the body, you have less gravity. Remember when they went to the moon, they could jump higher? Gravity is less on the moon. So if the earth didn't have the diameter, it would lose its gravitational field, and that's going to change a lot of things. You know what that means? End of the world again. Taste of luck, did that happen by luck? Thickness of the earth's crust is precisely determined. We're talking about just the crust around the earth. They say the thickness is not very thick for the 8,000 miles. Just add 10 feet. What? When I read this, I said, what? How do they figure that out? Just add 10 feet of more crust of planet Earth, and you'll oxidize all of the oxygen right out of the atmosphere. It will be on rocks, and you won't have the oxygen to breathe in the atmosphere. How did that happen? Means oxygen in the atmosphere would be transferred to the crust. And that's what would happen. Everything. Thinner would mean that the volcanic tectonic activity would be too great for life to exist. I'm not sure how that actually works, but that's the way they said would happen if you reduce the crust of the earth. So the crust of the earth is just the right thickness, whatever that means. Tectonics is essential for life because of what it does around the earth. It helps to form the weather patterns, we are told. Was that a mistake? Look at that little creature. It looks like it's been painted, but it's alive. Coin 12, oxygen level precisely determined. Think about that. How much oxygen do we have in our atmosphere? 21% here. Mars, Venus, 90% carbon dioxide. Reduce our atmosphere here of our oxygen from 21% to 19%, and you're going to suffocate. Just 2 degrees, they say. People that already are having trouble, they would suffocate immediately. Raise it to 25%, they said you will have a firestorm on planet Earth. You know what I mean, a firestorm? And raise it to 31%, the whole Earth, they said, would be a time bomb. From 21 to 31. Interesting. The atmosphere is less than 1% of the Earth's diameter and assumes a moderate climate with the correct combination of gases for liquid water to form and complex life to exist. Oddity of nature? Coin 13, chloroplast. Exchange, precisely determined. What is that? Well, we all understand O2 and CO2 exchange. We breathe out what? Carbon dioxide. We breathe in oxygen. So do animals. But plants, they breathe out oxygen and breathe in carbon dioxide. Isn't that interesting? How did the Lord plan that out? Plants breathe out oxygen, breathe in carbon dioxide. We breathe in oxygen, breathe out carbon dioxide. Coin 14, Earth's temperature is precisely determined for life. You know, if it gets too hot or too cold, you're going to lose. Earth's year-round temperature is, according to the scientists, 57.2 degrees. Consider the moon. We know that. 200 minus 240 at the poles each day, plus 270 degrees at the equator each day. Amazing. Compared to Venus, of course, that's as hot as boiling lead. Jupiter, frozen clouds of gas. Compared to the sun, millions of degrees. Compared to space, temperature is close to absolute zero. Coin 15, heads, Earth's protection is precisely determined for life. Protection against what? Cosmic accidents. In other words, there's a lot of meteorite material out there in space. You like that? Gas giants, they protect. These big giants out there in our solar system, the gravitational field is so strong so that any of these little meteorites that are wailing through space, they're sucked up. And you know, they're able to film them. We saw the little one that broke up going into Jupiter, I believe it was, or was it Saturn? And it broke up into about 12 or 13 pieces, but the place where it hit in the planet left a place as whole as big as the Earth. Those things are coming. The Revelation talks about it. We know that meteorites are happening, but those things help to protect us. We know our atmosphere protects us from a little bit of the problems coming in from outer space. How would you like to have a little? Never mind. Our home lies in an uncluttered area of our Milky Way. Kind of interesting. There's our little area. So that we can see, this is what we were told, this. Because we are there, we can see this. In other words, we are placed, our little solar system is placed in a certain part of our galaxy so that we can see the stars. They say if we were in other parts of our galaxy, we could not see what we're seeing each night on a clear night. They're God's jewels. Okay, yes, another coin comes up head, and there are so many coins that keep coming up heads, just keep coming up heads again and again. We looked at all of these. Isn't this amazing? 15 of them. What are the chances that these are all going to come up as a result of blind chance? Just reaching in my pocket and pulling out one coin at a time, and they come out in order of their date. Here's the chance of those 15 coins. That's something else? So it's one chance in quadrillion. That's one with 15 zeros after it. That I can pull out 15 coins in order. And you know that's not going to happen by blind chance. How is it possible then that we are taught in the public school system or in the university among educated professors that tell us there is no God, there is no such thing as design. Everything came about as a result of blind chance. You are here simply because of blind chance. Look at that. That's the chance. 1 trillion. There's a person down at the bottom left, that little tiny dot with a red circle around it. Amazing. Do you see how foolish the devil is? And there are endless number of additional coins that come up heads. Remember, it's a heart issue, folks. 1 quadrillion. Isaiah 40:12, and again, who has measured the waters, the hollow of his hand, or with the breath of his hand marked off the heavens? Who has held the dust of the earth in a basket, or weighed the mountains? The Lord's weighed everything. He's measured it. He's orchestrated the whole creation. Okay, we've got about 25 more minutes. What should I do, Lord? Remember this, evolutionary faith, first there was absolutely nothing, and then absolutely nothing landed in the right spot and produced absolutely everything. What a coincidence. What is more absurd? It is absurd for evolutionists to complain that it is unthinkable for a God to be able to make everything out of nothing, and then pretend that it is more thinkable that nothing should turn into anything. Horse racing and evolutionism have something in common. What is it? Lady love. Blind faith. Sir Fred Hoyle, astronomer, chance of life arising by chance is equal to 10 to the 50th power. Blind people, 50 zeros after one, each given a Rubik's Cube and solving them all at the same time. That was by this astronomer. 10 to the 50. Number one, number of blind people. Think about that, all at the same time. Romans 1:19. Since what is known, the verdict of light, they don't like the truth, so they remain in darkness. They'll be condemned. So the anthropic principle testifies to what? The universe was created with purpose and design. Christianity is reason and revelation. The Western religions of atheism, humanism, is all reason, no revelation. The Eastern religions of Hinduism and Buddhism and Islam, it's all supposedly revelation, no reason. What is the first test of Scripture? In the beginning, God. True or false? That's the first test. Genesis 1:1. It's a test of fidelity, trust, and commitment. You got to trust the Word of God. And you know what? He's going to confirm His Word if you allow Him to. So bottom line is, these things did not happen by chance, and neither did life and the creation. Okay? Has your faith been strengthened? I pray that it has. I like this. Not all superheroes wear capes. Mine wore a cross. There won't be time to get ready. You have to be ready during the rapture. Keep looking up because I'm about to make some noise. I said I'll rise again. I did. I said I'm coming back, and I am. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed. Isn't God amazing? Well, I wish on a star when you can pray to the one who created them. Everyone smiles in the same language. I like that. Okay, we got 20 plus minutes. What shall we do, Lord? I can do it for questions. All right. Questions? Did I hear that? Someone wants to ask questions? Either that or I can do whatever. Oh, okay. Or I can tell another faith story. Well, there was maybe 2 or 3 questions, and then we'll see what the time is. Question. Did I hear? There's a hand right back there. Or, okay.
Right here. How do we get your books? How
Who am I
do
looking?
we get your books?
Where are you? Back here?
Back here.
Okay, I see you now.
Sorry.
How to what?
How would we get your books?
Okay. Like I say, the best way to do it right now is to go on our website, Christ for the Nations, and go into books. And you can see my whole list of books. Christ for the Nations website, and look under books. My dad wrote 250. Yes, sir. Okay. Well, yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Amy. Where could we obtain a copy of your PowerPoint presentation?
Say that again.
Where could we obtain a copy of your PowerPoint presentation?
Oh, you can have all my PowerPoints. I can give you this stuff. I mean, I got it on a little zip drive. But I've got so many, it'd just wear you out. And I tried to, all of them are about like this, depending on what subject you want. But yeah, I can give you a zip drive, or I can give whoever. You'll have to get somebody to come up and get the whatever you want. What I've shown here, you can have that. You can have it. You can. There's no copyright and stuff on my stuff. I just take the stuff off of the web, so don't try to sell it. And yeah, if you can write on it, use that stuff, make a living off of it, fine. Yes, sir.
Have you seen the Sophia AI yet?
The what?
Sophia AI. It's the woman that's speaking, talking, feeling, made by a computer, robot.
Now explain to me in simple.
Go to YouTube, look up Sophia. It's a woman robot. It's walking,
Yes.
talking, feeling. Have you seen
Oh,
that
yeah.
yet?
You're talking about the robot. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, that's unbelievable what they're creating today and how they can talk and play chess together. Robots playing each other and how they're talking and communicating each other. And remember, the scientist says, are they really communicating with each other? In other words, they were designed and created with the ability to be able to think rationally with each other. Robots talking to each other. So what is this world coming to? You better be ready, because Satan is out to deceive the entire world. Revelation chapter 12, he's still out. And one of the ways he's doing it is through evolution, grabbing the children. Remember this, if you were in a class with young people or in the children, if the devil walked in and says, I'm taking your children, what would happen? He would be, if you could, you'd shoot him right there on the spot, right? That's not the way the devil comes into the school. He comes with coats and ties, very dignitary, has a few PhDs behind his name. See, Satan uses us, his servants, just like God uses us. So remember this, gets your children. And how does he win children? One of the first ways he teaches children about millions and billions of years. And so when the children go on a field trip to like a museum and they see the dinosaurs and it says these dinosaurs died out 65 million years ago. And then when the child goes to Sunday school and the teacher says to the children that the Lord created in 6 24-hour days, well, when? Well, about 6,000 years ago. The child says, well, my teacher told me no, the world is billions of years in age. And dinosaurs died out 65 million years ago. And as I told you yesterday, if dinosaurs died out 65 million years ago, and in those layers of geological layers, you have disease, the same diseases, and thorns, the same kind of thorns today, 65 million years ago or 100 million years ago. If that's true, then sin and disease and death and thorns that supposedly came about as a result of Adam and Eve's sin, something's wrong somewhere. Either evolution is true and the Bible is just a fairy tale when it comes to the creation story. So keep that in mind. Children are stolen. So if you have children, you have to make sure they are not being indoctrinated by the devil. Okay, I don't know if I answered that question. I got carried away. Next question?
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Dennis. It's just interesting that you're talking about children because yesterday my daughter, who is 8, they went out to a museum or somewhere the school went to, and that's what they're actually teaching them. So my question, which you've answered it already, but my question is, how do we, do you have books for children?
My books are written, we did do one. But my books are really for parents, like a mother who doesn't have any background in science, but will be able to understand them and teach them to her children. And I've got illustrations through them, so it kind of makes the child even interested if you're going along with doing bedtime stories.
Okay, and then the next question is it okay for kids to probably challenge their teachers?
Well, in respect. In other words, you always show honor and respect.
Because, for example, my daughter, who knows in the beginning, God created everything. So she said when her teacher was talking, what she did is she came back and told me, she's like, I didn't speak back to the teacher, but that's all lies.
Yeah, right, you got to. In other words, there's 3 movies that I've watched. God is Not Dead. They are powerful. They are powerful. If you get those 3, they're wonderful. They're by Christians, but they're done in a setting, in a school setting, where you're being faced with teachers that are absolutely out to destroy anything to do with God and the Bible. So those are 3. Yes, ma'am, sir, ma'am.
Hello there.
I can't
know
tell.
it's hard to tell, isn't
Okay,
it?
sir.
So my name is Alex. I have 2 things that I want to say. First, when you talked about the Great American Eclipse that came over, I was actually there in Wyoming, And to see and witness that event firsthand was incredible, and it just increased my faith. So I just like that you use that. My actual question is how do dinosaurs and the Bible, does the Bible talk about dinosaurs at all? Because they have the skeletons or anything like that. How do those two fit together in a timeline, I guess?
Okay. Yeah, that's a good question because, in fact, I answer it. In fact, one of the first thing is the millions and billions of years. You got to work that out in your mind. That's one of the most important things. One of the best videos that I've ever seen is by Ken Ham in 6 days. Oh, it's so powerful. I show it to my students every time. But the real issue is concerning the question. Where did it go? The dinosaurs. Oh, and the Bible. Okay, well, here's my question. What is the meaning of dinosaur? Terrible lizard. Comes from 2 Greek words and means terrible lizard. Oh, why don't you find terrible lizard in the Bible? Or why don't you find dinosaur in the Bible? Because dinosaur is a modern word. It wasn't in there. The word that they used back then is what? Dragons. And you can find that many times. So the book of Job, chapter 40 and 41 are 2 chapters that are incredible chapters. Chapter 40 is Behemoth, and it fits the description of one of the big giant dinosaurs. And the other one is chapter 41 is Leviathan. And I deal with that and show, can God create a creature that can breathe fire? Do you know one day, when I was in Jamaica on an outreach, I had to read my Bible, or I didn't have to. I just read my Bible one night. No flashlight, no stars, no electricity, nothing. I read it with a little lightning bug. Squeezed off the tail and I read the 23rd Psalm, the whole thing, perfectly. In total, 100% darkness. How does that little creature make light? He makes it from chemicals, mixes them together. And we do that in the 4th of July and different festivities. Christmas, we mix it to break the chemicals, mix them together, and it has these little necklaces that you can. God did that in that little creature. What about the little creature that produces 650 to 1,000 volts of electricity? Electric eel. It can kill a human being. It can stun a horse. It's unbelievable. I watched one get in a fight with an alligator. The fight was over within 10 seconds. And the alligator went into convulsions. Couldn't stop shaking and almost drowned, but they managed to get out. There's another little creature, the bombardier beetle, small little creature. He has 2 tails, and I've seen him this thing. Not very big, but nothing bothers him that's of any size. I watched a frog go, but he never closed his mouth. The bombardier beetle is sitting on his tongue. And the frog is, and finally the bombardier beetle wiggled himself off and walked away. I watched him going through a herd of army ants. Army ants will go into if a cow is tied up, devour a cow, kill him. It opens up like the Red Sea, and the bombardier beetle just walked right through. What is this little creature that God's designed? He has 2 tails, and he mixes 2 chemicals around that come out at the boiling point of water, 212 degrees Fahrenheit. Has an explosion. He fires it. That, and you can go on the web and you can see him. But they have to slow it down in so super slow motion to be able to know how many rounds it fires in a second. And it shoots it in any direction at his enemies. God made a little creature this big. If he could do it, that little creature, is it possible that he can do a Leviathan that breathes? Yes. It's extinct. Thank the Lord they're extinct today. I tell you what, the Lord we're going to see in the new creation, oh my goodness, we can't imagine what God's going to show us. But that just shows us a little bit. It's a modern word. Dinosaur is a modern word. You don't find it in the Bible, but you do find creatures that could represent the dinosaur world. And that's a whole nother subject. Did he take them on the ark? Absolutely. Because I would say that there were maybe some hybrids. Something was going on back then where Satan was experimenting with human beings back then and mixing genes with fallen angels and so on, and animals as well. And so God says, I'm wiping it all out. We'll start again. So something was going on even in the animal world, and probably a lot of those that were hybrids never even made it on the ark. The Lord says, don't mix them up. Let each one reproduce after their own kind. So on the ark was the ones that the Lord brought. Those are the ones that are carried on. And we can use certain things that can help us, but not try to make new creatures. The Lord says, don't do that. Okay, next question.
Hi, Dr. Lindsay. I was just reading in Joshua 10:13 when Joshua asked God to stop the sun and the moon. How did that affect the other things and other people on the earth?
Okay, that's a good question. One of my books is on that. Joshua's Long Day and Jonah's Long Night is the title of my book. How could those things have happened in reality? Well, one of the things we know, what can happen? God can do anything in a split second. He could, with no effect afterwards. But at the same time, is there a possible way in the natural that God could have brought about Joshua's long day? Yes, there is. You can simply, and we do this with magnets. You ever played with magnets? If you have, and of course, the planet Earth has a magnet going right through it, and that's why we can use our compass to guide us, the GPS and so on, is right through the Earth is a magnet. North Pole, South Pole. And if you have another planet coming by it with a magnetic pole through it, what happens when they get together? So here comes a deal, and as it gets closer, it begins to tilt a little bit, and as it goes back. And if you look at the traditions of the ancients, the Maori that live over in New Zealand, they have a tradition that there was a long night, which is the opposite side of the earth where there's a long day. Just interesting. Things like that. So the Lord could have done it through the natural means simply by using his laws that he created to bring about Joshua's long day. And I share much more detail in my little book on long day.
Yeah, I've personally been within 50 foot of a UFO. So the fallen angels didn't only just fall to this planet, did they? They fell to other planets, and that's where we got the aliens, right?
The fallen angels, they're of another dimension. The Bible shows that they have power. We read about in the book of Exodus, boy, the demons were working down there with Moses. Throws down a rod. I mean, even the God said, Moses, throw it down, turns into it. And the magicians did the same thing. Of course, the rest of the story is Moses' snake ate up the rest of the snake. Supernatural powers, and we look at that today and say, oh, man alive, how could that have possibly happened? No, there's still demons around, and there's still fallen angels around. And God has certain laws and says, I allow them to do certain things, but if they break those laws, they're in trouble themselves. The angels know that. I mean, if we just would obey what we do know, man, it's amazing. Angels know. They break the laws of God, they're in trouble. So the demonic powers are here, and of course they know certain areas of the world, and even in the United States, they have a little more freedom to expose themselves and reveal themselves to susceptible people. I mean, once you understand the power of God and you believe in the supernatural, you're going to see miracles that are amazing. You're going to share them with some of your friends, and they're going to say, you're out of your mind. No, when you know and you see those things, there's nothing that can convince you differently. I've seen those things. I've learned to trust the Lord and see the supernatural. Does that mean I don't have any problems? Oh, my goodness. No, but I've learned to trust the Lord through those problems, and as a result, I see unbelievable miracles. Unbelievable miracles. We're down to the last few moments. Okay. One more question? All right.
Hi, Dr. Lindsay. I just wanted to know what your thoughts are on the Ice Age.
What about the Ice Age?
Just like, what are your thoughts on it?
Okay. The Ice Age, yes, there was an Ice Age. But if the earth is only 6,000 years old, when did it happen? It happened at the time after the flood. In other words, something changed dramatically. After the flood, or before the flood, the Lord said, I'm going to make a promise with you as Noah and his family comes off. What was that promise? A rainbow. Something was different with the atmosphere before the flood so that people could not see a rainbow. Because you don't have to have rain to see a rainbow. All you have to have is moisture in the air. So something changed dramatically after the flood. The environment before the flood, people were living almost 1,000 years. And then afterwards, after the flood, you see it drop 600 years. I mean, Noah lived 600 years after the flood. Then his family, 400 years, then 200 years, then 150 years. And little by little, something was changed. We have all the heredity problems that we have today, mutations. They didn't have that in that first world. There was something going wrong, but the Lord says, I had to wipe it out. So in other words, what am I saying is something was drastically different. But after the flood, you don't have something that was covering it around the world. So from the North Pole to the South Pole, it was like Hawaii or a nice environment. You had a uniform temperature around the world. Everything was bigger and growing more, different. But afterwards, you suddenly have the cold and the hot seasons coming onto the world. And that was when there was a buildup of ice. The water is in ice, and then slowly it begins to melt to where we are today. So it's melting, yeah. There's certain areas. The whole idea of the change in the weather, I'll tell you what, that's a debate. I can show you new. Oh, and I don't want to get into that. Okay. Okay, does that kind of answer it though? Yes, there was an ice age after Noah and his family came off and the people began to spread across. There was a buildup of the ice on the poles, and then they slowly begin to melt back. I mean, if you read the Bible, my goodness, the world was different even in Abraham's time. When he looked down and saw the area where Lot lived, I mean, it was a well-fertile area with trees everywhere. It talks about them. Not today. If you ever go down there, there's nothing that grows down there. Something changed dramatically over the last several thousand years. Okay. All right. 2.5 minutes. Okay.
My question is on Pangea. You know how
Yep.
like all the continents were one?
Yep.
Is that something that the Bible supports?
Yeah, it does. There is a possibility of two different views, which I have, and I don't know which one I like. But that all the earth was one, all of the countries were one land mass, and then they slowly begin to break up. Oh, if I could have time to talk about that and the radiometric dating and how that happened so that and the people were divided up after the Tower of Babel. And then it says in the days of Peleg, the earth is divided. That's what his mean was. And people back then, they named their children on something that was happening at the time of birth. Peleg, division of land by water. There's different interpretations of his name. Was something, did his dad see something that was going on begin to separate at that time? This was a couple hundred years after the flood. Something was changing, and I don't have time to get into it, but that's it in a nutshell. Yeah, it could be that. Or they could have been divided already like that. The water was much lower because of the ice age. If all the continents were where they are today, and the ice was built up in the North and South Pole, then the water level of the oceans is much deeper. That means if you ever looked at a National Geographic map without any water on it, you can see all the continents are connected. All you have to do is lower the ocean level about 100 feet, just 100 feet. All the continents would be connected, including Antarctica down in the South Pole. It's amazing. You can see it on a map, just showing how the islands connect, land masses were connected. Okay? Thank you for this opportunity. God come and bless you.
All right.